Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Count Caldron, and welcome to the Gabba Ghoul channel. This is Boosh the Cat, and today we're going to be covering Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, directed by Sam Raimi, and the latest installment in the overall MCU. Just to give a little quick rundown about the channel, I basically am starting this because I love curating content, and there's a lot of genres that I consider, I don't know what else to call it except alternative entertainment, which basically means stuff that you're not going to find in the mainstream, stuff that's not reality TV show, or anything that's just basically existing to talk about, around the water cooler at work. I really like shows and movies that really take art or whatever genre or medium that they're in and kind of like does the best that they can with it. You're going to find that I love films that are really expanding or giving something new, but I am going to cover films that are liked and disliked. So come along this adventure with me, and we're going to be covering animated film, animated TV shows. I'm a huge advocate for animation, things that are nerdy, things that are horror, things that are maybe even artsy and experimental. But regardless, if you love cinema, media, and pop culture, you're in the right place. And Bush welcomes you as well, even though she's sleeping. So without further ado, welcome to Gabba Ghoul, and let's get right into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Every night, I dream the same dream. And then the nightmare begins.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is the second installment of the Doctor Strange series in the MCU. While chronologically, I don't have an exact time period for where it takes place, but I feel like it's safe to say it takes place a few weeks, if not months, after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home and WandaVision. As a side note, I truly think anyone watching Multiverse of Madness should watch the last few episodes of WandaVision just to be refreshed with the story of the Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff, as this is a Scarlet Witch movie almost as much as it is a Doctor Strange film. The film is directed by the legendary director Sam Raimi, who might be remembered from the original Spider-Man trilogy that starred Tobey Maguire in the early 2000s. Although Raimi's roots are deeply embedded in the horror genre, and he is responsible for such classics as Evil Dead, The Army of Darkness, Drag Me to Hell, and even has a large resume of horror movies he's also produced. Now, before we go on, I just want to preface this that I will have a spoiler and non-spoiler section for my review. If you haven't seen the movie yet, don't worry, I won't be talking about anything that we haven't seen in the previews, and if you have seen it or come back after watching, you can enjoy my dive into the specific parts of the movie I loved and what it means for the MCU going forward. So as the movie starts, we see Doctor Strange basically where we left him after No Way Home. Kinda pissy and a little lost, but losing the title of Sorcerer Supreme and being blipped for 5 years will do that to ya. While he's now recognized as the leader within the Avengers and just overall kick-ass warlock superhero, he is troubled by a recurring dream in which he sees images of himself trying to help a young girl. That is, until that girl actually ends up in front of him one day. The girl introduced is America Chavez, who is a superhero that can literally punch star-shaped doors into other universes. Only, she has no idea how to control her powers and can only use them when she's very afraid. She only got to our Doctor Strange's dimension because she was running from a set of demons I can only describe as Lovecraft Light. Doctor Strange realizes he's gonna need some help, especially someone who is attuned to the dark arts, and that leads him to Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. You soon find out that Wanda has her own motivations for wanting to learn more about the multiverse, and the story goes on to be a dark adventure of traveling through multiple universes and learning all about how dark magic is corrupting and how delicate the multiverse really is. Now, from the start, I want to say that Doctor Strange is one of my favorite characters, and I am also a huge fan of Sam Raimi's style of directing movies. But even if I wasn't, I feel like the dark storylines and beautiful production of this movie would have a little something for everyone. I did think America Chavez seemed more like a distraction to the movie for me at first, but only at first. They needed a MacGuffin in order for them to freely traverse the multiverse, and hey, how convenient. That's exactly America's powers. But it seemed like her character was only her powers, kinda like a Dora the Explorer if she were to be in a Rick and Morty episode. However, as the movie went on, I feel like there was definitely enough story and great character arcs that made me invest in her relationship with Doctor Strange, and made me care about her backstory. Not to mention, any character would be hard to pay attention to when you have Wanda popping off with her powers, because oh shit, did we see that. I don't think there was a moment in the movie where I wasn't excited about a certain multiverse they were in, and or the action slash story that was taking place on the screen. There are also parts of the movie that are very surprising for Marvel. The MCU has always been touted or criticized for trying to be family friendly, but the movie delved into some pretty dark areas and had a couple scenes that were straight from horror films. It feels like Disney really let Sam Raimi have fun with this film, and it made it fun for the audience as we see something incredibly new. The first Marvel horror movie. Now, going into how it connects with the overall MCU, there were a lot of huge things that happened in the film that could have ripples of change throughout the entire MCU. The FaceTime that Doctor Strange gets with the Illuminati was super exciting to watch, if not a landmark in Marvel, as it essentially places entities like mutants as canon in the MCU. I cannot tell you, I've never been more excited to see a bald man in a floating wheelchair than I was in this movie. Overall, I give this movie a 9 out of 10 because the pairing of Sam Raimi and then being scored by the legendary Danny Elfman really elevated every part of this film. Not to mention, it feels like Disney is still proving they can dish out great stories and movies without having to do huge crossover events every phase. In my opinion, both No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness have been on par or above the first two Avenger films in terms of fun and quality. If you're a fan of the MCU or even vaguely acquainted with the characters and just want to see a fun, kinda creepy at times film, this is a must-watch. Hey, what's up, you guys? Just to let you know, you have reached the spoiler checkpoint. So, if you're going to pass through this store, I'm going to be assuming that you've either watched the movie or you don't care about spoilers. So, this is your spoiler warning. I don't know how to make it any more big. This is the spoiler warning. Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome to the spoiler portion of the video. And I am wearing a different shirt than I was wearing in the intro. That's because a couple of days have passed, and I've actually gotten to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness a second time, and I'm kind of glad because it's given me some clarity, and I feel like I can kind of narrow down exactly what I really enjoyed about the movie. So I'm going to be covering a couple of points. I'm not going to really deep dive just because I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to try to do it chronologically as best as possible. However, I might jump around a couple of times, so I apologize in advance, but you've seen the movie, so you know that timelines and dimensions are like so passe now, right? Anyway, getting into it, I really want to say that I love the movie. I love the movie from a big standpoint. I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan, obviously, a huge Sam Raimi fan, but I do think that even without being fans of them, unless you're just completely not a horror fan whatsoever, I think that this kind of gives this movie kind of has something for everyone. So jumping into it, I really, really love that we saw the Book of Vishanti from like the get-go. What people are calling Defender Strange, which is basically Doctor Strange from the other universe that was with America in the very beginning when they were running away from that like fire tornado scribe demon, whatever it was. That demon wasn't my favorite. I didn't really like the design on it, but it was still really cool. I actually loved the whole the gap dimension or whatever it was, the place in between dimensions where the Book of Vishanti was kept. That was badass. Also, like I said, the Defender Strange costume where he's not wearing his cape and he has a ponytail. That's a cool version of Doctor Strange, straight from the comics for a lot of people that don't know it. Yeah, that is like an Easter egg. So cool that we got to see him. It was crazy that he like got killed so brutally. And yeah, that whole scene was really well done because, you know, we know that Doctor Strange, it was kind of just showing that his character is someone that is willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. I mean, he gave Thanos the Time Stone in Infinity War, but that's because he knew that essentially that was the only way that he could probably win without corrupting himself with the Darkhold, as we find out later, or that was just the only way that they were going to win in the long run and get to the space that they were now, the time that they were now. So that was really cool. And then, of course, the next scene that I think is really important is basically the whole scene of Christine's wedding. That whole version where he like turns water into wine as they're talking. Jesus, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is my Jesus. Just saying. You know, Jesus, I will praise you, Doctor Strange. You can turn water to wine at my wedding whenever. But I thought that was like a funny, like cheeky thing to do. Also, his conversation with Dr. Carter, who, for anyone who needs a refresher, Dr. Carter was the asshole / rival from the first Doctor Strange movie, even though he really wasn't much of a rival for Doctor Strange, but whatever. Their conversation I thought was cool because it shows that the blip and Thanos and Infinity War and Endgame, it's still having lasting consequences. And what I really love in movies and in cinema, or just in stories in general, is when big occurrences have lasting consequences. Like, you really do feel that the Marvel universe now, and even the theme of the stories that are going on, you have BP and AP, or excuse me, BB and AB, like before blip and after blip. And that's like the state for everyone, because the blip in Thanos and the Infinity War, that basically affected literally everybody within the cosmos. So I think it's really interesting, and it also shows that Doctor Strange is not this like unknown superhero anymore. He's front and center. Everyone knows that he gave Thanos the Time Stone. Everyone knows of the sacrifices that all the heroes had to make, and some people are going to be resented for it. Christine and Steven talking, I thought that was really sad. That was a very emotional point. There is this like camera setting, and it's no shade to Rachel McAdams at all, or whatever. But she's always had the mole on her face, which is about like right here. And there was this camera angle in which they were talking about some pretty heavy things about their relationship, but all I could see was the mole. I felt like I was in Austin Powers, where I was just like, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not going to pay attention to it. And then I'm just like, mole, 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 mole. You know what I mean? I'm not, like I said, no shade to her. Maybe she wants to be natural. Maybe she doesn't want it to be removed. She's still a kick-ass actress. So I just thought that was an interesting choice that they made. Obviously, talking about Doctor Strange and about like, is he happy? That whole conversation just had to be very surreal if you try to put himself in in his shoes. Like, here's this woman that you love, and she just got married, and you have this like long love story with her, but then now her new husband is a fan of yours because you're this really like world known, cosmos known superhero. And I also thought that whole scene was really cool. The scene between Dr. Carter and Christine was awesome, because it kind of shows how Doctor Strange is now front and center as being a leader of the Avengers, as being a well-known superhero, and how like he doesn't live a normal life anymore. He can't live a normal life anymore. In a sense, he has to live in isolation because he is this super famous person that is well known and expected to be heroic. So I think Christine's whole like comment about him always having to hold the knife. It's a little unfair, but at the same time, it makes it nonetheless true, because Steven is like a person that he can't really be vulnerable, and he doesn't like giving up control. So that's really interesting. But then going into it, the fight with Shuma Gorath, that's awesome. Anytime you put like a Lovecraftian creature with all these tentacles and stuff, I'm gonna love it. Like it was basically like Sam Raimi saw what James Gunn did for the Suicide Squad, and he had like this like crazy kaiju tentacle creature, and then Sam Raimi was like, you know what, I want one of those in my movie, and it came out just really badass. Then you go into the fact of he meets America, and then the scene with Wanda I thought was really, really awesome. They set the tone great for her like transition from being like kind of an anti-hero into a straight up villain. I'm really, really glad that during the movie they kind of had people like Wong ask Wanda questions about like, why don't you just like, you can literally control people's minds, why don't you just control America's mind and send her like and use her to go to the dimension with your kids. But then, Wanda really, she has her own reasoning, like even Steven says, well, that's the reasoning that our enemies use. So her reasoning might not be correct and is villainous and toxic, as one of my friends put it. They're like, oh, Wanda's so toxic in this movie. But, she's also had to deal with some really, really fucked up emotional events going on lately. She had to kill Vision, which was her love. And then she was able to create Westview. Then she lost her children and Vision again. And then she found out that basically she's a monster in being the Scarlet Witch and her chaos magic. Feel her sadness because you see her dreams with the kids, and then she wakes up and she's alone. So I think that while they made Wanda villainous, you still had, you should still have that kind of sympathy to kind of realizing while her actions are not great, they are coming from a really just kind of sad place with her. Doing the transition from the apple orchards being all in blossom and all this kind of nice to just showing that the Darkhold has corrupted this place, and it's just this like really Tim Burton like esque like bear trees spooky forest kind of thing. I thought that was really cool. And then of course she has great one-liners to where she's like, me sending the demons to to get America was actually a mercy, not sending myself. I'm like, oh wow, like that kind of like, you know, if I was Doctor Strange, I'd be kind of like shitting my pants at that point. I'd be like, okay, like, all right then. I did think it was a little weird considering that he didn't care about Westview. That was a little strange. Like that was a little weird because, you know, a lot of the problems that people had is that Doctor Strange, of course, would care about Westview and the fact that Wanda was doing that. But considering that it was so close after the blip, I feel like maybe that was the reason why he didn't really care. Going forward, just because, man, there's so much to catch. The Battle of Camartage was really cool. You got to see a lot of Doctor Strange side characters that you don't really get to see, like the Minotaur character. That's straight from the comics. A lot of other things straight from the comics. Wanda displaying her powers to the point to where she just massacres Camartage in like less than an hour, and you actually hear Wong saying that Camartage has fallen. Like, I think that just goes to show just how powerful, immensely powerful, the Scarlet Witch really is. Because that's what Wanda's even saying. She's not coming as Wanda, she's coming as the Scarlet Witch. I think the point where she was using the reflections as a way to, like, pull people and kill them into the mirror world, that was really bad. When she, like, went out of the golden gong and was like being all like, she was just straight up like Samara from The Ring, dude. Like, it was really awesome. And I think that's when I really started feeling like the horror aspect of this movie and realizing like, holy shit, this actually might be the first Marvel horror film. Of course, the scene with like Strange in America kind of being jettisoned off through like the multiverses, that was really cool. It really evoked the same kind of feeling that I had from the first Doctor Strange movie, where the Ancient One basically flicks his soul into the astral plane and sends him on this like really trippy, like kind of like a Grateful Dead-esque kind of psychedelic transfer. So that was really, really cool. The Universe 838, I kind of feel like this was like the writers and maybe even Sam Raimi's version of like, you know what? If we lived in a perfect world that blended like urban stuff with nature, then this is what it would look like. I really, really thought it was cool. And it was also, shout out for Bruce Campbell and Pizza Papa. Pizza Papa always gets his due. They did the thing to where his hand was attacking himself. That's actually an Easter egg straight from Evil Dead, where his hand gets corrupted and possessed. And so I thought that was just a really, really funny way. You didn't need any more than that. You know, that cameo, also with the after credit scene of him, like, that was exactly what I needed. It made me so happy just to see it, that I feel like I would have loved that movie just almost for that cameo. But anyway, as they're going through it, I just want to say that this was actually where I ended up caring about America, because her character was really kind of like cardboard for me for a little while. Like, yes, she had this, like, she was needed because you needed some kind of MacGuffin to go through the multiverse, but she didn't really have anything that was like her personality. She loved pizza. I love pizza. Like, that's cool. That's relatable. But I kind of need more for characters. It wasn't until I saw her two moms and saw exactly like what happened when she got scared of the bee and couldn't control her powers that I was really starting to empathize with her. Of course, you know, going more into this 838, you get to see Mordo. You get to see the Illuminati. The entire scene and everything of 838, the Universe 838, I think was just awesome, because the reveal of like Professor X, the fact that they added in the X-Men theme, that just, little me when I used to watch the X-Men animated series back in the 90s was just exulting. Like, I can't believe that we're actually at this time to where not only are we getting Professor X in the actual MCU movie, in an MCU that is built up with, you know, 30 or more movies and shows now, probably even more than that, to get that reveal, and then actually making mutants canon, like, that is really awesome. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. This, you know, yes, there could have been more to the scene. Yes, there could have been more time, maybe more prestige into, like, the reveal. But now we actually have mutants and Inhumans through Black Bolt in the MCU canon. So that's going to be really exciting for what they do with that. That brought it back into the MCU and what could be in the future. So that was really enough for me. Seeing John Krasinski as Richard Reed, that's dope. I know a lot of people are saying that Krasinski is a bad choice for Richard Reed. I think it's really awesome. I think that was an inspired choice. I think he pulled it off incredibly well, especially when he was talking about like the Darkhold and like, oh yeah, we have a Darkhold in this universe and like da 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 da. And yeah, Captain Carter, that was a great little addition, you know, for anybody that's seen What If. Professor X showing Steven, or, you know, 616R Steven, uh, what happened with Thanos. I thought that was really badass, just like in a sense for being like an in-universe lore kind of aspect. It also did show off Black Bolt's power, which was just fucking crazy. Wanda massacring the Illuminati was just I was not expecting that. This is where I knew that like Marvel was going into a horror aspect. I don't think Marvel should ever be really saying like toted as only family friendly from this point on. I mean, we literally get to see Captain Carter get cut in half. You know what I mean? Black Bolt literally, you know, where she's like, what mouth? And then he's just there. That's straight up like from the Matrix when Neo's mouth was glued. And then his brains get blown out. Like, dude, like that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's just fucking crazy. And then the coup de grace, of course. I mean, not to mention the fact that they kind of made it to where it showed that she is more powerful than Captain Marvel. I don't know exactly where that goes with that. But she snaps Professor X's neck. That's crazy. I never thought we would ever get to see that. The Book of Vishanti, I think, was just really cool in the way that it was designed. And I'm surprised that it took them this long to bring the Book of Vishanti into the theme of Doctor Strange, because it's a very, very important book. That's where he gets a lot of his really powerful spells from. But I get that it's kind of like the antithesis to like the Darkhold, which is a book. But I'm also glad that they like made it an actual place, which we see in Mount Wondergore. The whole design of this movie is the reason why I love Doctor Strange. They can really get creative. You get to see, like, obviously, Sinister Strange, as they call him. I mean, he just looks, like, kind of grungy, you know what I mean? He has, like, this, like, huge, like, thing, and he's, like, wanting to trade the Darkhold for Christine, so, like, what the hell is that about? Like, you know what I mean? Are you, like, some kind of multiverse, like, you know, I don't even know. I don't even want to get into it, but it's just weird. But yeah, like him, and then R Strange basically impaling him on that fence. I thought that was like, whoa. I didn't even think it was gonna go that route. I thought maybe that they would imprison him or something, because you know this dude's universe got destroyed, so you kind of feel like kind of bad, but you have to go through him. I think that's really badass that we get to see the Darkhold as an actual place instead of just a book. They did mention demons now, and I feel like we're finally getting into that realm, especially with things like Moon Knight, to where things are getting more mystical. You're starting to get more entities like demons, gods, all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, obviously we knew that like gods existed in this universe because we have Thor, Odin, Loki, all that kind of stuff. But I just thought it was really cool that we got to spend time in the actual Darkhold. My favorite scene, period, is when our Doctor Strange actually ends up dreamwalking into the corpse of himself that he buried on the top of the building when they meet America. The way they designed Doctor Strange's zombie version of himself kind of reminded me of Billy Butcherson from Hocus Pocus, if anyone, you know, remembers that. It was really cool. Like, it was almost like, yes, this is a zombie. I'm surprised because they didn't hold back. Like, you know, you could see his teeth. There was, like, a lot of blood there. A lot of just real, like, weird stuff. It's kind of goofy, but still horror-based, and that's really cool. And it's also sets a precedent because, yeah, in the comics, Doctor Strange really does go into hell. He goes into limbo. He goes into purgatory. He goes through multiple hells. You know, it's not just going through the multiverses in different dimensions in our universe. Anytime I can say the sentence, Doctor Strange was Doctor Strange was flying with a cloak made from the souls of the damned. Like, just that sentence right there is enough for me to be like, I love this movie. I said this is the first true Marvel horror movie. And I think that's really awesome that was like such a big payoff for that. The final fight with Wanda I thought was really, really cool. Because, you know, they never really beat Wanda in a fight. That's the whole thing. You still had Wong, which is Sorcerer Supreme. You had Doctor Strange, who even kind of subjectively had more powers now because he was using a body that came back from the dead. So as you can see, his magic was kind of tainted with like the kind of like dark black shadowy stuff too. So I don't know if that would amplify his powers or what, but I feel like it would open him up to a whole new level of power. So that was really, really, really cool. When they trapped Wanda in that like circle that was part magic ball, part just like the souls of the damned like attacking her. I thought that was really badass. It was just a cool way that America actually did end up defeating Wanda, was because she's all about her kids, and everyone's asking her about, like, hey, are you willing to live with these consequences to get your kids? And she's kind of like, yeah, she accepts it only if she knows. But then when her kids actually witness what she's doing and realize that she's a monster, that's when she's like, wait, no. Like, if they're seeing me as a monster, then I really must be a monster. Not to mention the Wanda from 838 going to our Wanda and basically just saying, hey, they'll be loved. I didn't cry, but it did definitely hit me in the feels. My wife actually was pretty, like, she was like sobbing, when that whole thing was happening too. And I was like, oh wow, like, so it did evoke emotional stuff. And I thought that was really badass. A great way to end the movie, the fact that she actually destroyed the entire Darkhold when she like brought the temple down on herself, but she destroyed the Darkhold in every universe, in every multiverse. That's crazy. I don't know what kind of like repercussions that's gonna have. We obviously saw Clea, who is going to be played by Charlize Theron, and she looked fucking awesome. Her makeup was on point. Everything was cool. Her slashing into the different dimensions was badass too. We did see that the Book of Vishanti basically had gotten destroyed, so I wonder what the hell they're going to kind of do about that, because it doesn't seem like the Book of Vishanti existed in every multiverse. It seemed like that was an area that was in between the universes, so realistically there would only be one of them, just like there's only one America. It kind of seems like even singular movies now are just as immense and crazy as the big events that they used to do. I mean, like, I feel like No Way Home and now Multiverse of Madness are both on par or even bigger and more exciting than the first two Avenger films. So America, I think, has this chance to have this very immense power that will be just ripple effect throughout everything. But I kind of hope that they kind of just make her go and search more for her parents and go on these crazy kind of wacky adventures, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, rather than being part of like the main. Is Wanda really dead? I really hope not, just because I think there's a lot more that they need to do with her. In the comics, her sons were actually they were created by her, but they were also created by a demon. I'm not going to say which demon because I don't want to get into the spoilers, and there's already been enough people thinking WandaVision that this guy was going to come in or whatever. But I really do think that they should go that more route, but I don't think that we're done with her yet, because we still have a lot of things to answer with her kids, and finding that out, because Wanda's kids were always kind of supposed to be made by magic, and in every other multiverse we didn't see Vision. We didn't see Vision as the father of those kids. So how did she end up having those kids? Going forward, I think we're going to see a much more confident, happy Doctor Strange in some ways, but we're also going to see him maybe going off the rails a little bit, considering that he now has the powers of the Darkhold and is the one holding all those cards, and so who knows what's going to happen with that. The whole movie was really exciting. Of course, the very, very ending post-credits scene of Bruce Campbell being like, "Ha! It's over!" Like, that was a fucking great. That was the cherry on top of it. I can understand where people thought that maybe this wasn't a great MCU movie. Like, it didn't bring back, like I said, it didn't really solve anything about Vision or what was going on with him. So the tie-in to WandaVision really wasn't even that much either, other than the fact of, like I said, I do believe that if anybody's getting people who are new to this, they should tell them to watch WandaVision, or at least the last couple episodes, just to see where Wanda is at with herself. So, yeah. Well, that being said, thank you for coming to our first video. This has been the deep dive. I feel like I've taken up enough of your time, but I'll see you again in the next video. I'll probably be making one. I want to make one about Moon Knight. It's not going to be as long, just because we only got 6 episodes of that. So stick around for that, and I'll be seeing you then. Take care.